Welcome to OTO TV, the out-of-the-office investigation from our past into the future of personal health and psychophysiological actualization. This time we're discussing structured water. Psychophysiology is the human body. For you, the curious learner, our mission today is, well, it's ambitious. We're going to explore a concept that really overturns how we all think about water. We're looking at its actual existence as a structured component inside our bodies and the measurable impact this coherent water has on our health, our psychophysiology. We're pulling from nanophysics all the way to clinical studies.
And it's such a crucial topic. It really demands that we, and frankly the entire scientific community, move past this idea of water just being a passive solvent, a chemical bath for life.
That's a solvent,
What all these sources are suggesting is that water isn't inert at all. It is the active matrix of life. It's deeply involved in regulating everything at the cellular level, function, energy. If the structure of the water in your body changes, your physiology changes with it.
That structural perspective is exactly why this is so compelling. But as always, we have to approach this with rigor. We need reproducible scientific verification. So today, we'll first define the difference between bulk water and the structured water, this revolutionary fourth phase idea. Then we'll look at the actual evidence for it inside cells. After that, we'll analyze a fascinating human trial on detoxification and stress, and finally, get into the really profound implications of water maybe, just maybe, carrying information.
We have to start with the physics, I think. That underpins everything. Traditionally, we think, three states of water? Solid, liquid, gas.
Right. Ice, water, steam.
But this research points to a fourth state, a highly organized liquid crystalline gel. Some call it hexagonal or coherent or structured water. And this is not the random jumbled mess of molecules in the water you pour from a tap. This is the state that's theorized to exist inside our tissues, inside our cells.
And the structure itself is what makes it so different. It's incredibly specific. Instead of just H2O, the molecules in this state organize into this repeating hexagonal lattice. The theory is that it's actually H3O2. And because of that structure, it's measurably different. It's more viscous, it's denser, about 10% heavier than regular water. But the most important part, I think, is what this organization creates, this physical barrier called the exclusion zone, or EZ water.
Yes. Think of it like a protective shell. It forms around everything vital inside the cell. This EZ zone appears whenever water touches a hydrophilic, a water-loving surface. So we're talking proteins, DNA, and critically cell membranes. And this is where the energy piece comes in, and it's just mind-blowing. The EZ water is measurably, consistently negatively charged.
Okay, I have to stop you there. A negative charge. That is fundamental. So if the EZ water layer itself is negative, what does that do to the regular water right outside that barrier?
It becomes positively charged. It has to. So you have this massive separation of charge, right, at a biological surface. This means the EZ water isn't just a barrier. It is literally a natural battery. It stores electrochemical energy.
A battery. So there's a real electrical potential built right into the fluids of our bodies.
Exactly. And the sources suggest this battery is constantly being recharged by radiant energy. Sunlight, infrared light. It's basically a photoelectric effect happening inside of us.
But if that's true, why don't we feel a jolt of energy every time we step into the sun?
Because that energy is being used constantly at the cellular level. This charge separation is believed to be one of the main drivers for all sorts of cellular mechanics, like protein folding, enzyme reactions. It's the silent fuel. And this whole dynamic leads to a really crucial insight: structured water. Psychophysiology, the human body, creates a healthy environment for cellular growth and success. This H3O2 lattice, this energy field, they're not just passive. They are essential for life to sustain metabolism and replicate.
Okay, so if this structure is the key to that healthy environment, what are the key elements for structured water? Psychophysiology, the human body. I mean, what drives its formation? What keeps it stable?
It's a living system, so it needs constant energy. The key elements are, first, the H3O2 formation itself. Second, establishing that negatively charged EZ zone. Third is that continuous energy input from natural EMFs like solar and infrared. And then absolutely crucial for keeping it stable is spiral, vortex motion. It's how water naturally wants to move.
That all makes sense theoretically, but where's the proof? Where's the observable microscopic evidence that this actually exists inside a living cell and not just in a petri dish?
We have it. We have confirmation at the smallest scales. Researchers using something called Raman microspectroscopy on live cells, HeLa cells, macrophages, neurons, they found a small but very consistent population of water that was definitively not bulk water. They called it biointerfacial water. It's about 3% of the total water in the cell.
Only 3%. That sounds, well, kind of small.
It sounds small, but its location is everything. It's massively significant because even with how crowded a cell is, this 3% isn't random. It forms a structurally invariant layer, averaging about 2.6 angstroms thick. To give you some perspective, that's the exact thickness of one full molecular layer of water. It's perfectly hydrating and regulating every soluble globular protein inside that cell. It's the control layer.
There's more evidence connecting it to the cell membrane itself, right?
Yeah.
The atomic force microscopy studies.
Yes, the AFM studies. They use these tiny carbon nanotube probes on lipid bilayers, and they measure these distinct hydration forces. They had this oscillatory profile.
An oscillatory profile, meaning it pushed back in waves.
Exactly. That oscillation was the physical displacement of up to 5 structured water layers between the probe and the cell membrane surface. The spacing of those waves, about 2.9 angstroms, is a perfect match for the size of a single water molecule.
And here's the really interesting part, I think. This oscillatory force, this clear sign of structure, it vanished. It completely disappeared when they tested it on membranes that were in a fluid phase, not a gel phase.
Yeah.
So you're saying the stiffness of the cell membrane itself determines if the water around it can hold its structure.
Precisely. It's a two-way street. The nanoscopic evidence shows that the cell components have to be in a highly ordered or gel state to maintain the ordered water next to them. The structure of the tissue and the structure of the water are mutually dependent.
Okay, so let's jump from the nanoscopic to the clinical. This is the part that directly impacts our listeners. If this structure is so critical inside the cell, does it matter if we actually drink structured water? A pilot study looked at exactly this. They had people drink a liter a day of structured water for a month versus a control group drinking the same brand of unstructured water. And they did it during an unfavorable seasonal, climatic, and epidemiological period.
And at first, both groups saw some basic hydration benefits. Things you'd expect just from drinking more water, an increase in MCHC, corpuscular hemoglobin concentration, which just signals better water salt metabolism. But the experimental group, the ones on the structured water, they showed unique and statistically significant positive changes that the control group just did not have.
The detoxification mechanism was one of the clearest wins, wasn't it? The structured water group saw a significant drop in their creatinine levels, which is a key marker for metabolic waste. And at the same time, their glomerular filtration rate in the kidneys went up.
This is critical. It means their kidneys were working better. They had a measured improvement in renal excretory function and effectively a reduction in the body's level of endogenous intoxication, the buildup of internal toxins. The body's cleanup crew was just running faster and more efficiently.
You're listening to OOTO TV with research by author Paul Bulow. But the data on the stress response, on neurological balance, that might be even more profound. Using heart rate variability, or HRV, the structured water group showed powerful growth in parameters reflecting parasympathetic activity. That's the rest and digest system. We're talking a 19% increase in RMSSD, a 26% increase in high-frequency power. These are big numbers.
And for anyone listening, what that means is the body shifted away from that chronic fight-or-flight mode, and these positive changes were mirrored by an 18% decrease in the LFHF index, which is a direct measure of sympathetic stress. So it indicates a measurable growth in the adaptive and energetic potential of the whole system. They were just better equipped to handle stress.
And the control group, the ones drinking regular water during that same tough period,
they showed reliable negative dynamics. Their stress and adaptation markers actually got worse. They became measurably less resilient, while the other group became measurably more so.
This data, it leads to a pretty undeniable conclusion, doesn't it? Exposure to structured water, psychophysiology of the human body, is critical to our mitochondrial and energetic potential, based on this documented growth of adaptive capacity. So with all these changes, from kidneys to heart rhythm, how can structured water, psychophysiology of the human body, affect our mental and physical health in such a comprehensive way?
It acts like an internal regulator. By enhancing the quality of that water matrix, it seems to fundamentally balance the autonomic nervous system. It promotes that parasympathetic repair state. It shifts the body's entire set point towards recovery, so you get increased adaptive capacity, better stress response, and at the same time, you're lowering the body's toxic burden. It's a total systemic upgrade.
This also makes you rethink how we get our water.
Yeah.
Researchers have pointed out that processes like reverse osmosis or desalination, they strip water of its natural structure. You end up with highly unstructured, depleted water.
And the implication there is massive. Purity isn't the only thing that matters. In some cases, maybe too much purification is actually a bad thing. Structured water. Psychophysiology, the human body suggests that drinking purified water through osmosis and desalinization may not be good for health if those processes are removing the coherent structure that our biology needs for energy and regulation.
So let's just pull those measurable benefits together one more time. The study showed a drop in body fat, better water-salt metabolism, enhanced kidney function, less internal toxicity, and a huge increase in adaptive and stress response capacity.
Right, and these clinical results really support the broader research, which connects structured water to better rehydration at the cellular level, more intracellular water, and improved immunity overall. The integrity of our internal fluids seems directly linked to health and longevity.
So despite the pilot study's limits, the positive effects are just so consistent. The data really does suggest that structured water, psychophysiology, the human body, can be linked to preventing illness and increasing longevity. So, let me ask plainly, can structured water, psychophysiology, the human body, improve our human health? And if so, what are the actionable steps for the learner?
The evidence points to yes, absolutely, especially in terms of building resilience. And the actionable steps, well, they tap into this fascinating ability of water to hold and respond to information. This is the very foundation of that coherence model.
This is where the science gets a little philosophical, right?
Mm-hmm.
The idea of water as an information carrier. Researchers like John, Emoto, Austin,
Yeah.
they've all demonstrated this incredible responsiveness in water.
John's work, for instance, focused on how that hexagonal structure is just preferred by biological systems. It provides the perfect scaffolding for things like DNA and enzymes to work properly.
And then there's Emoto's work, which is so visual. Those frozen water crystals showed that our intentions, sounds, emotions, they literally changed the molecular architecture of the water. The love and gratitude water formed these beautiful, complex crystals.
And the water exposed to discordant sounds or intentions like, "you disgust me," created these ugly, distorted formations. And this is so relevant because our own bodies, our proteins, our DNA, our cell membranes are also liquid crystal-like. Our body fluids are highly responsive.
You're listening to OOTO TV with research by author Paul Bullo.
Mm-hmm.
So the big takeaway here is that we can actually influence the structure of the water we drink and the water that's already inside us. Let's give the listeners some practical methods, things supported by the sources, to create more structured water at home.
The most foundational method is vortexing. That cyclical spiral motion is the primary driver. It mimics nature, like waves in the ocean or a flowing river. You don't need a fancy machine. A simple stainless steel or even a copper spoon, stirring water vigorously in a spiral for 30 seconds, that's a great start.
Okay, second is exposure to natural energy, sunlight and infrared light. They're critical for recharging that EZ battery we talked about. Just leaving water in a clear glass bottle in the sun for an hour, or even using an infrared lamp near your water pitcher, can enhance its structure. It really flies in the face of old fears about sun exposure, doesn't it?
It does. Third is grounding. This is so powerful. Standing barefoot on the earth, especially on damp soil, lets you absorb the earth's natural negative charge. That energy directly helps form easy water and order your body's fluids. And it's free.
And fourth, using conductive materials or specific crystals. Things like copper and silver are great conductors, so placing a clean copper object in your water, or stirring with a copper spoon, or even using crystals like quartz. They all introduce an electromagnetic influence that encourages that hexagonal structure to form.
And of course, as the intention research shows, even the simple act of having genuine focus, saying a prayer, giving thanks before you drink, all of that is suggested to increase the water's coherence.
All right, now for a required counterpoint. While all this is overwhelmingly positive, we have to be honest about the limitations. The clinical data we discussed is from a small pilot study, only 30 people, with a mix of ages, sexes, jobs. As the researchers themselves said, that complicates any decisive conclusion. These results are incredibly promising, but they're data points that stimulate development of new studies. They aren't the final definitive proof yet.
And that caution is absolutely necessary. I agree. However, given how consistent and profoundly positive the dynamics were across several independent physiological markers, especially the kidney function and the growth and adaptive capacity, and then you consider that the control group showed the negative dynamics you'd expect during a stressful period, I think ignoring the potential to regulate the body's internal water environment would be a huge scientific oversight. The benefits they saw offer a powerful new path to building resilience.
And that brings us to our final provocative thought for you, the listener. Considering all the nanoscopic evidence that these structured water layers next to our cell membranes are physically necessary for them to even function, should we fundamentally redefine serious diseases caused by fluid imbalance, things like water disease in critical care? Should we stop thinking about it just in terms of the volume of water and start thinking about it in terms of its structure and its coherence?
If the structure of water determines cellular energy, then managing that structure becomes absolutely paramount to managing health. It's a profound challenge to how we practice medicine.
Thank you for joining us on this exploration of the complex, active, and it seems highly intelligent nature of water within the human body. We encourage you to further investigate the structure and coherence of the water in your own life.